Hello, it's Karen Burniston here with an assembly video for one of our die sets. This is die number 1201, the mini ball pop-up, and you can check out all of our die designs at karenburniston.com. The mini ball is the newest and smallest of our pop-up ball dies. So we have two other ball dies available, and the differences between them is mainly size and accessories. The biggest ball die is the surprise ball pop-up. Now that one is going to need at a minimum a 5-inch card to hide the ball. The bitty ball pop-up came next. It will fit in an A2 size card, so 4 1/4, and it is 20% smaller than the surprise ball. And then now the new mini ball pop-up is 20% smaller than the bitty ball. It will actually get down into a 3 1/2-inch square. So when you're thinking about slim lines, the mini ball is a great choice for that. The other way they differ is the included accessory dies. So the surprise ball comes with generic hearts, stars, and circles. The bitty ball comes with pieces and parts to make a bear or a dog or a chick. And then the new mini ball comes with pieces and parts to style an owl or a bird. Here's the card I'll be making in the video today. I will show the assembly of the mini ball as well as how to stack it and style as an owl or a bird. Those pieces just come included in the die set. Then I'm also going to use our long flap enclosure die set, that's new, and our mini alphabet and numbers die set, that is also new. For convenience, my favorite cardstock is in our exact packs, 100-pound smooth cardstock, and then the colors in each pack are chosen to fit our various ball dies and add-on sets. So exact pack 8 is for the mini ball pop-up, and it does have the colors for the owl and the bird. There's a nice light craft color in that exact pack, and I'm going to use that for the owl. The two dies I need to start are the one that cuts half of the pop-up ball, and then the one that cuts 2 trapezoids at the same time. And I'm just going to kind of tape those together in a spot where they fit the most paper-friendly on that square of cardstock. Now you can use any die cutting machine that can accommodate a wafer-thin die. I'm using my Spellbinders Platinum 6. And I'm just going to keep those two dies taped together in that location and repeat that process 3 more times. Now, one thing to check before you start assembly is that you have 2 pieces that are identical, meaning that you can see the score lines from the top. If you were to line them up over the top, absolutely everything would line up perfectly. And then I would just go ahead and mark the top of those with a little X or something, just so that you don't accidentally flip one over, because you do have to start from 2 identically oriented pieces for it to work correctly. There are 4 kind of triangular shaped tabs that get folded to the back, all 4 of them. And then on the back, they actually get glued down. So those are meant to reinforce those sides that hold the rubber bands. And I do like glue for this. I'm using my LINECO neutral pH adhesive in my fine tip bottle. We do sell both of those items on our website. Those tabs are never going to be seen. They're inside the ball, but they are required for strength and function. So definitely coat the entire tab with your glue. You're looking to shellac those down. Now I know what you're already thinking. Tell me about that gorgeous jar. Well, let me tell you, one of my students, Donna, gifted me this amazing jar for my glue. She created this using clay, and I'm just blown away. Now, if you don't have an awesome friend like Donna to give you a clay jar, you can use a wee yogurt jar. That's what I used to use. And just put a damp paper towel inside and then keep your tip of your glue bottle in that damp paper towel, and then the glue will stay flowing throughout your crafting session. So I'm just locating the folds next to those reinforced sides, and that'll just help me place those reinforcing trapezoids inside the ball. My favorite assembly of the ball dies now includes adding some trapezoid reinforcing inside the ball so that I can add 2 rubber bands to each ball. So the goal with those trapezoids is just to glue them over the top of those 2 sides that have the fold-in triangle tab. So I'm still working inside the ball. Now I typically just cut those out of whatever the ball color was because I can cut it at the same time. But they don't have to be. They're inside the ball. You'll never see them. If this is a spot that you want to use up some scrap cardstock, you could certainly do that with those extra trapezoids. Okay, flipping that over to the outside of the ball again. Now I can go around on each spoke and work the fold that's next to the tab out at the end, as well as the fold at the base. So those other 4 that haven't been worked, they have half tabs and then at the base. And then that essentially is half of the ball. And I just need to do that exact process again with the other half. So folding in my triangle tabs first, gluing them down, then adding the reinforcing trapezoids, then working all the folds from the outside. To glue these two halves together, I need to first locate a side that has the hole in the cut and put them opposite each other and make sure they both line up. If they don't, I need to flip one around. So the idea is that you want to glue these together so that both the hole and the cut lines up perfectly. And that is a kiss connection, meaning that you're going kind of face to face on those tabs. I like to go inside the ball and just make sure that the corners line up really nicely because I want the cut and the hole to line up. From the outside of the ball, I like to give it a good press by pushing the tab one way and then the other. And now I have those two halves securely glued together. In the description box below, I will put a link to my favorite rubber bands, Alliance Pale Crepe Gold rubber bands. What's important is that they are the soft stretch ones, softest stretch. I like the number 12 size. So that number 12 size can be used for all three ball sizes. Just make sure that you're getting those soft stretch rubber bands. So I am going to use 2 of these rubber bands. And I'm just going to put them both around my finger, and then holding them, I can just slide them through the cut on that connected side until they're in the hole. So it's important that they're actually in the hole or they will weaken that little shelf that's supposed to hold them. Now, since I'm doing a mini ball, I like to basically loop one of the rubber bands around so that I can slide it back through the hole again. So you kind of have to put a cross in it, an X in it, to be able to loop it around. And then you have to pull it until that new loop is also in the hole. Okay, and then I can take the slack out. So essentially I have one of my rubber bands is looped through that hole twice. And then the other one is just once. So now if I were to stretch those out, I've basically made one of them a little bit shorter because that's the one that's been looped around that shelf a second time. So there's a hexagon and 6 identical trapezoids in the set. You need 2 hexagons and 12 trapezoids, so you basically just have to cut each one of those twice. Now what I like to do if I know that I'm cutting a lot out of the same color is I'll go ahead and use a temporary removable tape to put those dies together in the most paper-friendly manner. So I've just got them all butted right up next to each other. And then I try to keep my temporary tape to the outside of the die. And that is just printer paper. I'm just attaching those to printer paper, running it through and removing the paper itself. And now I've essentially made a connected die that makes it really easy for me to cut enough decorator pieces for one half of the ball in one shot. I just have to do it twice to get enough for both halves. I am working on the head of the owl right now. So for the decorator pieces, I chose the medium brown that's called Nutmeg out of Exact Pack 8. And now with all my decorator pieces on, I'm ready for assembly. I'm going to start traveling around the ball, connecting tabs to the other half of the ball, but I want to make sure I go in the opposite direction to the cut. So whatever side doesn't have the cut, that's the side I want to be working with these half tabs. So what I do is I just add the adhesive to the top of each half tab. I just like to put my finger between them like this so that I can get a good amount of glue on each of those half tabs. Then I just set them side by side so that each tab connects to the other half of the ball. And here's why I really love Dry's Clear glue, because it's probably going to squish out a little bit. I just wipe it right off with my finger. It will dry clear whatever's left on the ball and on my finger. Inside the ball you can see each half tab is connected to the other half of the ball. And then I carry on and do the same with the next one. So the adhesive goes on the tabs. I don't spare it because I want it to be really nicely shellacked to the other half of the ball, even if that means that some of it squishes out. I do want to make sure that I have my corners very straight, so I really take my time with this and make sure that everything looks very straight as I connect them, just wiping away any squishy glue. Now I'm around to the full tab, so that's going to be just like on the other side where I need to connect them so that the holes and the cuts line up. In this case, it's a kiss connection, meaning it's going to glue to the other one, so I only need the glue all over one half, but I do have it everywhere. And then I just need to kiss connection those together. I'm not able to get inside to make sure that everything's lined up, so I just really pay attention to those corners and make sure that they look very, very well aligned so that I know that inside the ball, both the hole and the cut are lining up. Okay, now I can look inside the ball. From those 2 open sides, I can grab the 2 rubber bands, and I like to just treat them like a set again. So I want to just put them over the top of each other so that I only have to slide into the hole one time. basically right down into the hole. I should hear it click. Don't let go of those rubber bands until they're in the hole, because otherwise they're probably going to pull on that shelf and weaken it. Okay, now's the time to kind of give it a push and see if you like the spring back. That's actually springy, very nice, so I probably could just leave it alone. But if I want to, I can reach in there and figure out which rubber band doesn't have the extra loop on the first side. It probably will feel a little bit looser. And then if I'm careful and methodical, I can actually loop that rubber band around that shelf and back into the hole again. And again, I have to be very, very careful that I'm pushing until it's down in the hole, and I'm not letting go until then. And I apologize, I was looking so closely that I wasn't paying attention that I was right on camera. But let me show that now. So I've looped that rubber band around that side, so that now each side has one looped rubber band, and that has tightened it up even more. So is that necessary? Not every time. You might be fine without looping it, but I did want to just show in the assembly video that you have that option. If you need to make it a little bit tighter, you can loop that rubber band around that shelf and back into the hole again. And once I get those rubber bands where I like the tension, then I can go ahead and finish out the ball assembly. So I've got 2 more sides to do. Both of them are half tabs. So I coat the half tabs with adhesive. I make sure that the corners line up really nicely, wipe away any excess glue. And then 1 more side to go. Again, it's going to be half tabs. So the adhesive on those 2 half tabs, then I just get them side by side, stick them to the other half of the ball, and make sure that the corners line up nicely. Okay, this ball is assembled. I can make sure that it has a good spring to it. And then as I look at it, if I've got a gap that I don't like, I can carefully kind of push one side in so that one overlaps the other just a little bit, and then that usually brings them back where they meet again. So just kind of pushing on one side so that it's over the top of the other, gently, gently, and then that usually evens it up so that the gaps aren't as noticeable. The other ball is essentially identical, except for 2 of the trapezoids I've done out of the same craft color that I used for the ball itself. And then to have those be a little bit distinguished from the ball, I'm going to just brush a little bit of brown ink around them. I stuck with that same nutmeg medium brown for all of the other decorator pieces, the same color that I used for the head, but then these 2 pieces represent the belly of the owl, and I like to attach them to the connected side of the ball. I would like my owl to be able to spin on a brad in the finished card, so now is the time to pierce the hole and put the brad through. And then I just open up the prongs underneath. And now I'm going to assemble this ball with 2 rubber bands exactly like I did for the first one. Now I have both balls and I'm ready to glue them together. Now on the head, I like to spin it around until I see a rubber band side, and of course I can pick my favorite of those 2 to be the face of the owl. And then I just want to glue that to the body so that the rubber band side is essentially over the rubber band side. I just think that they look the best that way. So the adhesive goes all over the decorator hexagon on the body. And then I think if you flatten it, you can make sure that all of the spokes line up just perfectly so that you have that good alignment on the head and the body in the flat position. If you own the biddy or the surprise ball, you may try that as the body of your owl. And if so, just center the head on the body as you glue it together. Now I just need to use the included decorator dies to style the owl. So for the front, I'm going to layer both the hearts together. And then there is a die in the set to cut a wing. So I've cut that twice out of brown cardstock, and that can go anywhere on the body that you think looks great. Then there is a die to do feet. And on those feet, just make sure that as you're gluing them to the bottom of the ball, that you don't pin down the brad in the process. For the 2 circles that combine to make the eyes, I like to use a white gel pen to add a catch light to the black small circle before gluing it to the white one. And then once those eyes are layered, then I can glue them to the head. And then the last 2 pieces to finish out the owl are the beak, which I like to have overlapping the eyes a bit, and then that brow piece, which goes above the eyes. And here is the finished owl ready for a project. I used the same process and the same exact pack to make pieces for the bird. I used the lightest blue for the mini balls and the belly pieces, and then I used the darker blue for the decorator pieces. The die set includes a different shaped eye for the bird. Again, I used a white gel pen to add catch lights. Once again, I like to glue the eyes on and then the beak so that the beak can overlap the eyes just a little bit. Since the wings were cut with the same cardstock color as the body, I went ahead and inked around the perimeter before gluing them on. And then I like to use a third wing as a tail in the back. For the bird, I'll use the little bow tie that comes in the set. Now that bow also looks cute on the head, kind of like a hair bow. And then the feet on the bottom, just like with the owl. Both the birds use 2 stacked mini balls, but you can absolutely swap out and use one of the bigger balls to change the size. So this one uses the mini ball on top, but the bitty ball on the bottom, and you can see there's a pretty marked difference in size. I'm going to make a slimline style card today, so I wanted to have a double fold in it since I do have 2 stacked ball animals to go inside. So I started with a piece of cardstock, 8 inches wide by 8.5 inches tall. And then on the 8-inch side, I scored it at 4 inches and 4.25 inches so that I have 2 folds, worked both those folds. That will create a 4 by 8.5 inch card where it has a gusseted fold and the one side comes a little short. Then a great companion die for the mini ball pop-up would be the new long flap enclosure. The flap itself is a full 8.5 inches long, but then when you cut it at these notches, you can trim it down easily into a 6-inch length for a mini slimline, or even all the way down to a 3.5-inch length. Another nice feature of the long flap enclosure is that there is a second fold. So if you just engage one, then you have a normal flap for your flat cards. But then if you engage the second fold, you'll have a gusseted fold that's perfect for when you're making stacked ball animals and want to have a little bit of room in your card. Then I just use a strong glue to attach that behind the card so that it comes up to the first fold. And since I've used the full flap, it is 8.5 inches long and I can go end to end. Okay, so now I have created a card base that has a gusset on both sides and measures 4 inches by 8.5 inches when folded up. The biggest rectangle in our long rectangles crosshatch would fit the inside of the card perfectly, but I cut it and then slid it down, lining up the crosshatch by feel, and then cut it again, and that way I made some custom sizes for the inside. For the big rectangle on the left, I'm only attaching it near the bottom, and that way I can still lift it up later to use it to hide a brad from the closure. The die itself can be used as a template to mark the location for the hole. I just collapse the owl down, line it up over the die, and then as I place it in the card, I'm just looking at the owl itself to make sure that the wings are between the folds and they won't get crumpled. Then I can remove the owl, mark the location of the hole, and remove the die. And then I just repeat that same process with the bird on the other side. And then I just pierce the hole, collapse the ball down, open up the prongs, then put the prongs through the hole, open them up on the back, and then now that will spin on that brad and it stays within the limits of the folds. And then I repeat that process to add the bird on the left side of the card. Now I haven't decorated the front, which is great because there is a brad prong showing on the front of the card, but those will get covered. That long rectangle crosshatch on the front of the card will cover the brad prongs, and then the long flap enclosure includes a decorator piece for the flap. And then inside the card, I've already added a couple of layered ovals from our ovals crosshatch with the layered hearts from the mini ball. I've marked the location for my closure, and now I'm going to stack up 3 spacers over each of those marks. And then for piercing the hole, I just need to make sure that I open the card completely up so that I'm only piercing through the card itself. And then for this one, since I already have the decorator piece inside, I need to pull that out of the way and then be very careful as I pierce that hole so that I do not pierce into my hand on the other side. And then still holding that paper out of the way, then I can add my flower-shaped washer. So those come in the long flap enclosure die set, and I'm just using a decorative brad to attach that washer through the spacer set and then open up the prongs on the inside of the card. Then for the other washer, I add twine through the hole first. So down through the spacer set and a little bit on the inside of the card. And then I open up the brad prongs and that kind of traps the twine until I can get some paper on the inside. Okay, here's an easy way to decorate the front of the card. Just copy the animals into a flat version. So I'm going to use ovals out of the ovals crosshatch set again, and I'm just going to trim the bottom so that they have a flat edge. And then the same decorator pieces out of the mini ball can be used on those ovals to fashion a flat version of each bird. I'm adding my flat birds to the front of the card and leaving myself space in the middle to fill in with a custom greeting. And I've decided on what's the word bird, and I'm using our new mini alphabet and numbers die set. That set includes letters, numbers, punctuation, and shadows. Inside the card, I just kept it simple and added our big script hello die set. On the back of the card, I can see brad prongs plus the edge of the tab, so I like to add a panel of cardstock to both clean that up and make it a little bit sturdier. Okay, for hand delivery, maybe cramming it in a number 10 business envelope would be fine. Otherwise, I would probably suggest a bubble mailer. If the thickness of the card was more of a concern to me, then I could have made sure to place the owl and the bird so that no part of them overlapped the other in the closed position. So you do have room for that with the mini ball and an 8.5-inch card, but you've got to get them real close to the edges to make that happen. In my case, since I had gussets on the folds, it didn't really matter to me that a portion of the bird overlaps a portion of the owl in the closed position. Since the owl and the bird pieces come with the set, I wanted to show those in the assembly video, but of course you can use the mini ball pop-up to fashion anything you can think of. So here it is, just the mini ball itself made as a cupcake. Here's one that Kelly Booth made, also a cupcake with a cute little birthday candle on top. This next card by Kelly really shows how you can use our small animal sets, in this case the owl from the feathered animals, to match the pop-up ball that you would make. So I love her cute little baby card here. And then Lois made an adorable Happy Spring bird card. I like her idea of a pink belly. And then speaking of pink, Kelly Booth with another adorable owl card, this time completely in pink. Also check out the mini ball add-ons set. So there's one to turn them into gnomes, one to turn them into a monkey and a lion. The mini ball pop-up die set is available now at a lot of your favorite local and online retailers, as well as from our website, KarenBurniston.com. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com, where you can purchase these dies as well as find links to our other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.